Hello friends, welcome to the lecture series on computer communication networks. In this video, we'll consider the extended discussion on the standard Ethernet in continuation with the part 1 of this video from module 2. Myself, Abhilash KJ, Assistant Professor, Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering, will take you guys through the session. So coming to contents of this video, we'll consider the extended topics from standard Ethernet. In the previous video, we have considered the features of standard Ethernet in terms of the characteristics, the kind of services that is provided, the frame format, the frame length considerations, and we also have considered addressing in terms of unicast, multicast and broadcast addresses. In this video, we will consider access method, the efficiency of standard Ethernet, the implementations that is done in standard Ethernet, and the changes that has been incorporated into the standard Ethernet. So I have referred Data Communication and Networking by Forozen 5th edition textbook. Coming to the next topic from the features of standard Ethernet, we'll be discussing the access method. Since we have already quoted Ethernet operates in a broadcast network, we require an access method which will control the access to the shared medium. So the standard Ethernet chooses CSMA bar CD with one persistent method. So in the previous video series, we have considered the media access control mechanisms. In that, under random access, we had considered a scheme called as carrier sense multiple access with collision detection. Here, along with that, how the carrier sensing has been implemented has three major techniques: one persistent method, non-persistent method and p-persistent method. Here, the carrier sense multiple access with collision detection along with one persistent method is implemented in the standard Ethernet. So, one persistent method here means that it continuously senses the medium whenever the medium is sensed idle, that is carrier is sensed idle. As soon as the medium is sensed idle, the station starts transmitting the frame. So the carrier sense multiple access with collision detection here means that once the station starts sending the frame, its duty does not end there. After transmission also, it has to continuously sense the medium and detect whether there is a collision that has been occurred. So we have considered an LAN network with a bus topology using a coaxial cable comprises of 7 stations in this example. Here, one station, that is station A, want to communicate to the station D. So how exactly the access method has been implemented, we'll consider in this particular example. So station A first has to sense the medium whether any other station is currently transmitting over the medium. That is, station A, when want to send some information to station D, first it has to sense the medium. That is a basic principle of CSMA bar CD with one persistent method. So A continuously senses the medium for idleness of the medium. If the medium is idle, then for a shortest time duration of 100 microseconds, here sensing the medium is nothing but sensing the energy level of the medium. We had considered three energy levels: zero energy, normal energy and abnormal energy conditions. So zero energy means the station is idle. Normal energy means one of the station is already transmitting. Abnormal energy condition here means that more than one station is transmitting the signal or frame at any given instant of time. That is the condition of collision. So here station A continuously senses the medium, and if there is no signal energy on the medium, it is assumed that, or it is means that none of the station is transmitting, thus the medium is idle. So it starts sending the frame according to one persistent method. On the other hand, if the signal level is not zero, that means one of the station is already sending the frame in the medium. Thus, it continuously monitors the medium until the medium becomes idle. So that is the principle behind one persistent method along with the CSMA bar CD. So here they have considered a time duration of 100 microseconds. So once the station finds the medium idle for around 100 microseconds, it starts sending the frame. So since the collision detection is implemented, station A has to store a copy of the frame until no collision is completed or no collision is identified. Once the collision is identified, it can discard the frame. So in this particular situation, we have to consider two cases. The medium sensing will not stop before the transmission, but it continues after the transmission also. So thus, station A need to send and receive continuously. It is continuously sending the frame. It has found out that the medium is idle and it starts sending the frame. And at the same time, it has to receive the signal from the medium regarding the energy status of the medium. So in the first case, let us consider an example, or let us consider A sending a frame. So the frame maximum length is 512 bits, as we have considered in the previous section. The maximum length of any particular frame is the 512 bits. Sorry, minimum length of the frame is 512 bits or 64 bytes. So in case the no collision is sensed, that is energy level did not change throughout the transmission, the station is sure that the frame has been sent successfully and it stops sensing the medium once its transmission is over. Now, if the data rate of if the amount of data that is being sent is 512 bits, since we are using standard Ethernet, the data rate supported is 10 Mbps. So in order to send 512 bits, so station A requires 51.2 microseconds. In case if we consider the speed of the cable in terms of 2 into 10 power 8 meter per second, so the first bit from the station A requires, it covers a distance of 10,240 meters one side. So we have calculated the distance in terms of time multiplied by the speed. In case of single side, in order to send any particular one bit, for first bit, it will travel a distance of 10,240 meters one side or 5,120 meters in the round trip, that is from sender to receiver, from receiver to sender. In case during this particular duration, if the collision is identified with any bit from the last station on the cable, might have gone back. So because of this, in the worst case, the collision should occur by the time less than the time required for sending the 512 bits. So by the time the last bit is sent, the first bit has covered minimum of 5120 meters in the round trip situation. In case the collision happens in between, it will be clearly identified by the station A, thus it will abort its transmission. Or in the case the data transmission, if the collision is not detected, since the station A is continuously sensing the medium, if abnormal energy does not comes, that clearly means the transmission was successful. So usually the designer of standard Ethernet put a restriction on length of the cable in terms of 2500 meters, because we never consider the delays encountered in the transmission from one station to another station. In case any problem occurs, that is when another station is start sending before the first bit of station A, other station thinks that the line is free because the first bit has not yet received that particular station. The restriction on 512 bits helps in this particular situation. The sending station is certain there is no collision will occur if abnormal energy is not sensed during the first 512 bits. In that particular case, if the collision is detected, it will is detected, so it will refrain itself from the transmission and it will resend the frame after a particular duration, which we will consider in the next case. In case no collision is detected, it will discard the copy of the frame that is stored in its buffer. So if you consider the second case, that when a collision is occurred before sending of the completion of 512 bits, so that clearly means one of the bit from the station A has collided with some other bits of the other stations. So in this situation, according to the principle of CSMA bar CD, both the stations has to abort their transmission and they have to store the frame in their buffers for resending in the whenever the line becomes idle again. In this case, to inform other stations regarding the collision, each of the stations will send 48-bit jam signal. For example, if station A has sent, since C has not heard of the first bit of A, if C also starts sending, then the collision will occur. So station A and station C are now involved in the collision. They'll store the frame in their buffers. Now they have to intimate other stations in the network, that is B, D, E, F and G, about the occurrence of the collision. So they send a 48-bit jam signal which will created through the channel to alert the station about the collision. So after sending the jam signal, once again they have to resend the frame. In that particular case, the same frame is resent. So K value was initially 0 according to CSMA bar CD. Now K value will be incremented by 1. K is nothing but the number of attempts. So after the increment of maximum, K maximum value, that is 15, if the medium is again busy, it will abort its transmission of sending the frame and it will try after some particular duration. If K is less than 15, it will wait for a back off period, that is TB according to CSMA bar CD, and it will restart the process. So in order to calculate TB, we'll generate a random number between 0 to 2 power K minus 1, which means each time the collision is occurred, the K value will be increased exponentially. So initially if we say K is equal to 1, the random number will be between 0 to 1. After the second collision, the K value is equal to 2. The range will be between 0, 1, 2, 3 and it goes on. So after each collision, the probability of increases, that back off period becomes the larger one. So once the back off period is completed, it will retry the transmission. It will reinitiate the process of retransmission. Once the maximum value of K has been reached, it will refrain its. It will abort the operation and it will resend the frame after a particular time duration. Next, we have to consider the concept of efficiency of the Ethernet. So efficiency of Ethernet is defined as the time used by a station to send the data to the time the medium is occupied by this particular any particular station. So thus we can measure the efficiency by making use of a relation 1 over 1 plus 6.4 into A, where A is nothing but the number of frames that can fit into the medium. So A could be calculated as ratio of propagation delay to the transmission delay, because the transmission delay is nothing but it is time that is required for a frame of a average size have to be sent out, and the propagation time is nothing but it is a time required to reach the end of the medium. So thus a value will give us a measure of the number of frames that can be incorporated into a that can fit the medium. Thus efficiency is calculated as 1 divided by 1 plus 6.4 into a. So if the length of the medium is shorter, in that particular case, the efficiency increases. So the parameter A increases, the efficiency will decrease in this particular case. That is, if the number of frames increases, then efficiency will decrease. So in the ideal situation, if A is equal to 0, the efficiency is 1 or it is 100%. Next, coming to the implementation, the standard Ethernet has several implementation, but we'll consider only the four major of them that is popular during 1980s, that is given in this particular table. So we have implementation, the type of the medium that is used, and the limitations on the medium length, and the type of the encoding that is being used. So we'll consider each of this separately in this particular video. Here, the implementation is abbreviated in a term where the 10 base x clearly means 10 indicates the data rate that is supported in this particular implementation. So since all of them are the implemented under standard Ethernet, it will be having 10 Mbps. Base will defines it is a baseband signal, that is the signal is represented in digital format. X will define either the maximum size of the cable or type of the cable that is used. So when we are using standard Ethernet, we have to take into consideration the encoding and decoding principle, since we are speaking of digital signals here. So encoding and decoding we have to consider. So it will be using digital signaling, that is baseband at 10 Mbps. At the sender part, the signals are converted into digital signal using Manchester encoder. At the receiver side, it is decoded by making use of Manchesters. So since the Manchester encoding is used because it is self-synchronous, so it will provide a transition at each individual bit interval. It can be picturized in this particular diagram. So at the sender part, 10 Mbps data is encoded by making converted into digital signal by making use of Manchester encoder, and it is transported in the medium. At the receiver part, receiver will receive the signal, digital signal, and it will interpret it in terms of Manchester, and it is decoded into the actual data at the receiver part. So we'll consider each of the four implementations in relation with standard Ethernet separately now. First one is 10 base 5 Ethernet implementation, which is also called as thick Ethernet or thicknet. So 10 base 5 was given the name thick Ethernet because of the size of the cable. Since it was very large in size with a larger diameter, it was very difficult for one to bend the cable by just making use of hands. So 10 base 5 was the first Ethernet specification which made use of bus topology with an external trans receiver. So trans receiver is nothing but a device which incorporates both a transmitter as well as a receiver, which is connected to the thick cable by making use of a thick coaxial cable. So the receiver here is responsible for the transmit operation, receive operation, as well as the detection of the collision. So this transceiver is connected to the station by making use of a cable, that is coaxial cable, which will provide the separate path for sending as well as the receiver. So that means the collision can only happen in the coaxial cable here, not in the bus. So the maximum length of the coaxial cable must not uh, exceed 500 meters in this case, else the if the length will be increased, that will result in the degradation of the signal. If the length is more than 500 meter is required, in that particular case you can extend the LAN network into under 10 base 5 into 5 different segments. It could be divided into segments. Each individual segment could be connected by making use of repeaters. Here repeaters are ones which regenerates the signal uh, from input to the output to its original level. So the 10 base Y here means 10 Mbps of standard Ethernet, which makes use of baseband signal, that is digital signal, which has the limitations to the length of the cable in terms of 500 meters. So we have considered an example here which made use of around 4 systems that are connected to the bus topology via we have cable ends at each individual case. This cable end length is the maximum of 500 meters. So each individual system is connected to the bus, that is thick coaxial cable, by making use of transceivers. These are the transceiver parts which will be connecting the individual system to the bus. So this is the thick coaxial cable which can have the maximum length of 500 meters, and to connect the system to the bus we will be making use of transceiver cable which can have the maximum length of 50 meters. So we'll consider the second implementation, that is 10 base 2, or which is also called as thin Ethernet or cheaper net. So here the second implementation makes use of once again the bus topology, but the cable is thinner in this particular case, thus it is more flexible. So the transceiver is once again normally will be part of the network interface card which is installed inside the station, so which makes it different from the earlier case. So here the collision will occur once again in the thin coaxial cable. So the implementation in terms of cost, it is less expensive, thus it is more cheaper than 10 base 5. At the same time, the tabs are also cheaper than what we have made use in 10 base 5. So the installation part is also very simpler because thin coaxial cable is very flexible, and the length limitation here is uh, cannot exceed the maximum segment length cannot exceed the maximum of 185 meters. Since it is very closer to the 200 meters, uh, it is referred as 2 in this particular case. In case the length exceeds 185 meters, which will result in high level of extra attenuation since we are making use of coaxial cables. So here 10 base 2 means that 10 Mbps of standard Ethernet of the baseband digital signal, which can have the maximum length of segment, that is 185 meters. Since it is very close to 200, the term 2 is used in this particular case. So we have this particular implementation which once again will have the cable ends. Along with that we have thin coaxial cable. This is nothing but the thin coaxial cable with a maximum length of 185 meters. So the next one is 10 base T, that is twisted pair Ethernet. So this is the third generation or the third implementation which is called as twisted pair Ethernet. So which uses a physical star topology. Now it is different from earlier two implementations which we have considered, which considered bus topology. This is implemented by making use of star topology. So all the stations are connected to the hub by making use of two pairs of the twisted pair cables. So two pairs of twisted cable creates two different paths, one for sending as well as for receiving between the station and the hub. So now any collision will happen at hub, not at the coaxial cable in this particular scenario. So now hub actually replaces the coaxial cable as far as the collision is considered, the maximum length of the twisted cable here can extend up to the maximum of 100 meters in order to reduce the effect of attenuation in the twisted cable. So here 10 base T means 10 Mbps of standard Ethernet over the baseband digital signal, making use of twisted pair cable. So this is how the implementation is done. So here each individual station is connected to the 10 base T hub. So this is a star topology we are speaking of. All the stations are connected to one particular device, which is nothing but the hub, and which is connected by making use of two pairs of twisted pair cables. So one for sending and another one for receiving. Here you can clearly see the two cables, one for the sending purpose and another one for the receiving purpose. So here we make use of two pairs of the cable. So the next implementation we'll be discussing is the 10 base F, that is fiber Ethernet. So even though there are several types of optical fibers are available for 10 Mbps Ethernet, the most common one that is used is 10 base F, which makes use of once again the star topology to connect the station to the hub. The stations are connected by making use of two fiber optic cables in this case. This is how it is different from twisted pair cable. There we made use of twisted pair cable. Here we will be making use of optical fiber cable. So 10 base F here means 10 Mbps of baseband digital signal carried through the fiber cable. So this is the implementation part. So you have two different fiber cables that are running, one for transmission and another one for receiver, that is connected to the 10 base F hub in the star topology. So next we will consider the changes that is been incorporated into the standard Ethernet. So the implementation is done in order to increase the data rate, at the same time reduce the collision as well as increase the performance of the system. So the implementation is done in terms of three different cases: bridged Ethernet, switched Ethernet, and full duplex Ethernet. We'll consider one at a time. First one is bridge Ethernet. Here the implementation is developed such that the LANs are divided and they are connected by bridges. So connecting the bridges has two different effects which are required to enhance the performance of the system. First one is they'll raise the bandwidth. Second one is they'll separate the collision domains. So we'll look into this example separately now. In case no bridges are used, if we have 8 system that is connected, in the case of unbridged Ethernet network, the total capacity is the 10 Mbps is shared by all the systems here, that is 8 systems in this particular scenario. If only one of the station has data to be sent, it can utilize the entire 10 Mbps full capacity. But if more than one station has data to be sent, then the total capacity has to be shared by the number of stations which are which want to communicate. For example, if we consider 2 stations which has many frames to send, they'll be alternatively using the channel, since at any given instant of time one has access to the medium. So we have considered 2 cases here, that is 2 stations here which has data to be sent. Initially the first station will send for a duration of time. After that the second station will send. Alternatively they will be sending the data. Here I have considered the 5 cases in which 8 cases in which data is sent. In the 4 scenarios the station 1 will be sending. In the 4 scenarios the second station will be sending. And all these stations will be communicating or will be making use of the entire capacity of the channel. At every instant they will be transmitting the data, that is 10 Mbps. But when we consider overall capacity of the medium, then the average capacity, since we have 2 stations here, the average capacity that is being used by the individual stations, that is 2 stations here, the average capacity is 5 Mbps each. If we use the bridge so that we can divide this station into 2 different segments, In that particular case, 4 stations will be on one segment, another 4 stations will be on another LAN segment, and both the LAN segments are connected here by the bridge. So now, since there are 8 stations now divided into 2 networks, each will be having 4 stations each. Now each network will have 10 Mbps. This network separately has 10 Mbps and this network separately has 10 Mbps. Now all the 4 stations here can transmit at the maximum of 10 Mbps. That is actually 7 because that is actually 5 because bridge is also involved in between, but not the 8 stations. Earlier 10 Mbps was shared by 8 stations. Now it has been reduced to 5 stations, that is 4 stations in this segment and a bridge. In case there is heavy load, each station will be offered 10 by 5, that is 2 Mbps each, instead of 10 divided by 8. So earlier unbridged network scenario, 10 Mbps is shared by 8 stations. Now it is being shared by the 5 stations only. Thus the bandwidth is increased in this particular case, that is bandwidth offered to each individual station. So at the same time, the second advantages of having the bridge network is in terms of the separate collision domains. So in case of unbridged situation, all the 8 stations are making use of the same channel. Because of that, all will be into the same collision domain. So if any one or two of the stations are involved in the collision, all the 8 stations will be affected by the collision. This is unbridged situation or without bridging situation. In case this entire entire shared medium is divided into 4 different LAN segments, in this particular situation the collision domain is also separated. So 8 stations are divided into 4 segments in this case. So 2 stations per segment. We can clearly see that the collision domains is also separate. Now here the collision can occur only if both the stations will start sending. Here also if both the stations start sending, and the collision is limited only to this LAN segment. But in this case, without bridging, the collision, even though is between the 2 stations, all the other stations will be affected by the collision. Now, so bridge Ethernet will also provides this particular feature of providing the smaller collision domains or separating the collision domains in terms of a larger network. So the next case we will be considering is switched Ethernet. In this particular case, the idea of the bridged LAN is extended to the switched LAN. Instead of connecting the station LAN segments to the bridge, all the station itself are connected to the one particular switch. That is, why not, instead of having two to four networks, we can have n number of networks. That means there are n stations on the network. So we can have a multi-port bridge. Switch is nothing but a multi-port bridge. Then we can have a n-port switch also. Now the bandwidth is shared only between the station as well as the switch. Thus every station is guaranteed of 5 Mbps each. Now the collision domain is also divided into n domains. So we have layer 2 switch is usually considered here. So bridged Ethernet to the switched Ethernet evolution is a big step which opened the example for faster Ethernet. So we have considered here around 7 stations connected to each individual switch. So each will be having the separate collision domains. So each collision domain involves only one system in this case. So thus, entire this LAN has capacity of 10 Mbps, which is shared by 2 devices, that is the system itself and the switch. Thus each station will get a minimum of 5 Mbps. But in the unbridged situation, if I have 10 systems which is connected to the LAN cable, then 10 by 10 is nothing but 1 Mbps. If all the 10 stations were active, then each station will get a maximum of 1 Mbps. But here in this particular case, each is getting minimum of 5 Mbps, is guaranteed of getting 5 Mbps. Why exactly CSMA bus CD is not required? Because in full duplex mode, each station is connected via two separate links, that is one for transmission as well as one for receive. So at the any given instant of time, each station or switch can send or receive independently of without worrying about the collision that is occurring. Since it involves only one system and one station, one can send and receive simultaneously. Since it is a point-to-point dedicated path between station to the switch, it is not required for the carrier sensing, and it is not required for collision detection also. Thus, the responsibility of the MAC sublayer here becomes simpler. So the carrier sensing and collision detection functionalities of the MAC sublayer could be turned off. And since the standard Ethernet was designed as a connectionless protocol at the MAC sublayer, there was no flow control mechanism or error control mechanism is implemented, which will intimate the sender about the frame that is arrived at the destination with error or without error. But whenever the receiver receives the frame, it does not send any acknowledgement, whether the positive acknowledgement in the case of successful transmission or the negative acknowledgement in the case of the corrupt reception. To provide the flow control and error control in the full duplex switched Ethernet, a new sublayer, that is MAC control sublayer, is added between the logical link control sublayer and the MAC sublayer. Implementation could be shown like this. Each individual station is connected to switch, which will have 10 base T implementation, one cable for transmission and one cable for receiving. Thus, it will support the full duplex operation. So that is about the standard Ethernet. So under standard Ethernet, till now in the part 1 we have considered the characteristics and addressing scheme. In the second part we have considered the media access method, then we have considered efficiency, then we had considered the implementation, the different implementation that has been done in terms of 10 base phi, 10 base 2, 10 base T and 10 base F, and we also have considered the changes in the standard in terms of the bridged Ethernet, the switched Ethernet, as well as the full duplex Ethernet. So that will complete the discussion on standard Ethernet. In the coming video lecture, we'll consider the evaluated versions of standard Ethernet, that is the fast Ethernet, which will have the data rate of 10 Mbps, 100 Mbps, and gigabit Ethernet, which will support 1 Gbps. And finally we'll consider 10 gigabit Ethernet in the coming video lectures. Thank you.